Hello and welcome to the March 2019 Sunshine Summit. My name is Heather and I am your host. I host a podcast called Sunshine and Power Cuts, and this week, in association with Geeks Rising, I bring to you a week of live streams to recognize and celebrate connections. We're on day 4 and we've been joined by some amazing guests so far. On day 1, we were joined by Paul Csomo of the Varmints podcast. Day 2, we had Ducky and Mrs. Ducky from his Let's Plays that he does, and he's in the live chat, so hi, Ducky. And then we had Collison from Home Gadget Geeks. And yesterday we were joined by Steph Fuccio of the Virtual Expats podcast, Changing Scripts and Expat Rewind. Today I am so grateful to be joined by Wynne Kelly Charles, who is an author and a podcaster and a connection maker. Welcome, Wynne.
Well, thank you for having me on. And I'm sorry, you guys. We had the sunshine in on my end, but we had to make it rain in here and put the gray cloudy skies on the Sunshine Summit because the way I'm doing this was via my phone, and it the sunshine got too much for my phone.
It
So
did.
that's why I'm sitting here without the sunshine, but we're going to have fun anyway.
We'll bring our own sunshine today, and it was
Yes, we will.
yeah.
Yes, we will.
Yeah. So you and I connected mainly through Twitter, I think. I saw you posting things, and we have some similar podcast connections like the amazing Emily Prokop, and you also recently interviewed Susie Buttress, who I have a connection with as well. Yeah.
I did. I did. And Emily has done some work for me in the past. She's also a podcast editor, and I need to hook up with her again to make my podcast sound terrific.
Mm-hmm.
Emily does terrific work. For those of you who haven't heard of Emily Prokop, she does the story behind podcasts, also as the owner of Podcast Productions.
That's it. Yeah. She does a lot of things, and she's very active in the podcast community and very supportive of everyone. We've got Dean from Regen Racing in the chat. We had Adam Higgins from Odd Out, and we've just had David pop in and say, hello, Epic Gamers, which I'm not sure about that. We're talking about being an author and a podcaster and making connections today with Wynne. So I just wanted to ask you a few questions, Wynne, about some of the important connections on your journey that are related to cerebral palsy, to CP.
So, cerebral palsy is my disability. And even though I was diagnosed with it in 87, I wasn't properly diagnosed until I was 30 years old, actually in July, when I found out my official diagnosis in July of this previous summer when it was staring me in the face
Yeah.
on a piece of paper. And so, what my official diagnosis is, it's ataxia spastic cerebral palsy, meaning that the ataxia part is more about my gait and more about when I kick a soccer ball. I can't kick a soccer ball straight to save my life.
Yeah.
And it's more about I look like when I'm half drunk when I'm walking, even though I haven't had a glass of wine. I look on a daily basis like I'm half drunk.
Mm.
And then that's the spastic part. The ataxia part means my nervous system is way overactive, meaning it's too overactive. Meaning, if Heather said boo to me right now and I wasn't paying attention, I would probably jump off a foot and drop my phone.
So we hope that nothing comes out and scares you in the next little while we're having this chat.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And how has it been helping you? Because you on your journey you've got your assistant, and is that Danielle or is that someone else?
That's Danielle, and Danielle also has cerebral palsy. And the day I thought I'm going to do a podcast, I thought, well, I need to recruit someone to do the scheduling, and I thought, why not recruit your BFF to do the scheduling? Of course, my BFF, who is one of those types who ever, when I say, do you want to do X, Y, and Z, she 9 times out of 10 comes back with yes, I will help you, yes. And so I trained her how to do my scheduling,
Mm-hmm.
and she's gotten so good at it. That things are magically appear on my schedule, and I don't even have to worry about the scheduling.
That's awesome. She sounds like an amazing person, and she was really good when I was lucky enough to be a guest on your podcast late last year, and she was great with communicating through emails and things. So it was really awesome.
And I have even taught her how to get into my system for Ask When and upload the episodes. So I don't, and I should probably give her the producers credit that I do, because I don't have to worry about the uploading of the system. I just step in, do the interview, text her, and say 1 p.m. interview is done, and then she does all the rest.
That's amazing. That is so good. And it's nice to have someone who is passionate about it like you are, and she's learnt the tech things that she needs to be able to help, and that's really awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
So, on the note of podcasting, then, you've connected with a huge number of people to be guests on the Ask Win podcast. How have you managed to make those connections with everyone?
I just ask, here's how I do it. Here's my secret. I just say, can I interview you? And 9 times out of 10, um, people are, now they're used to it. But at the beginning, they were scared of talking to a person with cerebral palsy. I'm not that scary as has a nose, but they were scared about talking to a person with a physical disability, and so it was a little bit rough at the beginning. But now my fan base is so used to it. It's like, yes, I love your story. Yes, I'll be on your podcast. And like I said to you, I was one of the original members to sign up for the Sunshine and Pelicans Summit, because when you came out with the Google Doc, I'm like, yes, all help. Also now it's my turn to turn around and help.
Yeah. I appreciate your enthusiasm for it and for registering your interest in it. And it's awesome to have you here as part of it. When I discovered the Ask When podcast and had a look through the the plethora of people that you've interviewed, they all have these amazing stories to share. And it's awesome that you're offering that platform for them to be able to do it. And today I wanted to share your story and help other people connect with it. And we've had Dean from Regen Racing, who's a guest later this week. He said, just ask. Shocking. It's just as simple as that, as asking.
Yes, yes. And Dean, I do need to connect with you after this, because I want to interview podcasters and authors are my particular favorite people to interview, because they have the most interesting stories. So, Dean, you and I should connect on Twitter.
He said happy to. So that's, there you go. Yeah. He also said that he finds that people are pretty happy to help, especially the podcast community. Have you found this one?
I I have. I found that Facebook is way too political
Okay.
here in the US, and we'll not get into that. But I found that Twitter is more my jam, because anyone can comment. You don't have to be a friend with the person. You can just jump right into a Twitter stream. And I found that the Lady Pod Squad, and everyone else who does Follow Friday has embraced me as a disabled woman doing a podcast.
You haven't let that stop you and you still make your connections, and that's awesome. And Ladies Pod Squad is an amazing group of supportive women. helping each other out, which is awesome. And I'm glad that we were able to shout them out today. We have done in the past summits, but it's good to mention them again today. You can follow them on hashtag LadyPodSquad on all the social media. Yeah. Just going back to, have you connected with resources and things that helped you? How did you learn about the whole podcasting and technical side of things?
Well, at the time, I wrote a book. I wrote my original book, I Come a Win, which is still in print. It could still be found on Amazon. It could even be found on Amazon New Zealand. Thank you very much. And it could even be found on audible.com. Use a credit to go get it. And I would appreciate the audio book buy because every penny helps. But I wrote that book. People started asking me how I deal with cerebral palsy so gracefully.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time I wrote the book, I didn't even put my official diagnosis in that book because I didn't even know what my official diagnosis was. So I thought, okay, people are complete strangers are asking me how I do so well with cerebral palsy.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, they open up the can of worms, and I either have to close the can of worms come out with my story publicly. Well, unbeknownst to me, I tried Blog Talk Radio in the same format I'm doing now. And I remember the day that it wouldn't let the guest in to Blog Talk Radio. I remember crying on my podcast. And I said, that is it. I'm making a commitment to you guys that this podcast will stand in some form or fashion and I will figure out a way to do it. So then I got on Facebook and asked in those podcasting groups the ridiculous question of what podcast host should I go with?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was telling me Lipson.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kept seeing this Lipson thing. And I didn't even know what Lipson was at the time. And so by the deft response, I'm like, Lipson. Okay, Lipson. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
And then, so I went with Lipson and then made a podcasting sin in podcasting land. I forgot that my credit card had expired and I forgot
Oh.
to pay my Lipson bill. So then I decided to switch to Simplecast.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Simplecast is one of the newer ones out there, and let's just say I wish I hadn't switched.
Oh.
So that's why I put the Diary of a Fashionista back on Lipson and made sure that everything was all set up bill payment wise because I didn't want my podcast to go down.
Mm-hmm. That's an important thing to remember too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you think? Yeah, you think? When you have a fan base who's now relying on you, and I know people rely, including myself, on the Sunshine and Powcuts podcast.
Yeah. Dean in the chat said that he uses Transistor and he has a bias because he uses it and he does listen to the feed, which is Libson's podcast. So, yeah. The people in the groups that you connected with, were they helpful with your questions that when you were asking about what to do? You find
They were, now this was back on Facebook. I wish I started, I wasn't active on Twitter back then. I was active more on Facebook, and
mm-hmm.
people started following my journey and they followed the progress of my original book now. And then I wish I had more supportive podcasting group like I do now on Twitter,
Yeah.
instead of the go on and on and on and decide your own opinions and persuade you like they sometimes do on Facebook.
Yeah. Paul Csomo is in the chat and he says hello, Heather and Win. So hi, Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Yeah. Chris Osborne is also in the chat and he's happy to catch it live. You've also connected with Stargate Pioneer and Better Podcasting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Better Pod, even though I consider myself a semi-professional podcaster, Better Podcasting is one of those podcasts that I catch up on to make sure that I'm not losing my mind in the podcast industry, to make sure that I know what's going on in the podcast industry. And Dave Jackson is another podcast coach. He actually does support for Lipson, by the way, and
Yeah.
that's public. So he's very proud that he was a podcast customer of Lipson's 10 years before he worked for them. So he's very proud about that fact. But he still does his podcast, Ask the Pod as the podcast host
Coach.
with Jim Collison. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Who was on earlier this week. I missed that one. And I missed that one from the outside. And then he also does, Dave Jackson also does the School of Podcasting. So those podcasts I listen to religiously,
Mm-hmm.
like yours. Thank you very much.
Thank
When
you, Win.
time I drop every time you drop an episode, I automatically hit the play button.
Thank you, Win. That's exciting. And they are good resources, all of those ones that you mentioned, Ask the Podcast Coach, School of Podcasting, and Better Podcasting. And back when I was kind of joining you last year to be a guest on your show, SP asked me to say hello then, and I kind of missed his message in advance. So hi from way back then, and I'm sure he sends his regards again. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, if you want to get into the podcasting realm, and if you want to get into the storytelling realm, use mine as a basis. Don't steal my guest any. Actually, you can steal my guest anytime. You can steal Heather anytime. She's a great guest too. And so you can just take what you see fit from all these podcasts.
Yeah. Adam said that he hears you on the School of Podcasting almost every month for Dave's question of the month.
Oh, I try. I try. I try, Adam. I try to be a contributor to the podcasting community, because the author community, more so the podcasting community, has embraced me so much
Mm-hmm.
that I think it's my turn to give back.
Ah, that's awesome. And that's so great when people do give back like you do. And Bandrew said that's why he knows you is from the School of Podcasting monthly questions. So he's heard of you
Yeah,
before.
yeah. So no, someone caught me on my podcast, because at the end, um, I asked my um, podcast guest, do they have any questions for me?
Yeah.
Like I did with you, Heather.
Yeah.
And these are unplanned questions, and I am a pretty open book. And so I asked, and when I asked a person that one, I'm going to throw out another podcast, the Retired FBI Agent podcast, run by Jerry Williams. When I said to her, do you have any questions for me? She goes, when I discovered you long before you discovered me, because of the School of Podcasting questions.
Cool. That's an awesome story that she discovered you from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You never know where people might hear you, and you're giving value in the things that you share there. So that's awesome that you're sharing your experience. And we briefly touched on that you are an author, and you were an author first before you became a podcaster. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Writing the book led to
Yeah.
this podcast madness.
Yeah. And you've published a few books.
I have published 8 books, excuse me, 9 books, and working on my 10th.
Working on your 10th. That's amazing. The one that just came out recently is called
Smile with Dictation, and that was more of a fan request than anything else because I have cerebral palsy. People were asking me how I do it. So, Smile with Dictation is more of a how to book.
Mm-hmm.
I teach people how to use Siri, which is Apple's speech to text. I also teach people how to use Dragon, naturally speaking, and no one's not talking about the movie How to Train Your Dragon. So you can actually write your book, you guys, using your iPhone or using your PC or using any dictation software that comes on your iPhone or Android. Dragon is available mobilely on Android and iOS. Dragon is actually better on the PC side,
Yeah.
but Apple's gotten into the game. They also have Siri on the Mac side. Siri comes automatically built in. Dragon you have to buy separately.
Yeah. The Dragon one has been around for a very long time. I remember that from a long, long time ago. So it's
Yes,
amazing that it's still out
yes,
there and that it is working and helping people to be able to write.
yeah. No, it's amazing. And Dragon finally bu- finally bit the bullet and got a Mac version, but I have both, and I like the PC version better.
Okay. So it just works better and makes the workflow easier.
Yeah, they need to work on Mac version.
Is that how you've written your books, Win, using those?
I up until a year ago, I was on a Mac,
Yeah.
so I used Siri.
Okay.
Up up until this year, I didn't start using Dragon until my Mac broke. I was in a position where I was given the opportunity to get gifted a computer. Thank you very much. And I asked for a Mac. That wasn't fiscally feasible. And so I said, fine, give me a PC. Just put Dragon Naturally Speaking on it. I'll be happy. And so that's when you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. What are you going to do? Be picky about your speech dictation software? No, I
No.
don't think so.
Yeah. That's awesome. And like we said, those books are available on Amazon and everywhere. And the links for those are on your website. And we will have those at the end. But I do recommend that everyone go have a look and check out what the amazing work that Win is creating. Um, Incredible. Bandrew said, holy smokes, working on the 10th book. That's really impressive.
Yes, yes, and it's taken me a little bit longer um, because life has gotten in the way, and so it's taken me a little bit longer to get this tenth book out, but it should be out and polished if I don't get a traditional publishing deal with this one. I'll go self published, but my plan is to have this book out if I go self published by March 22nd.
Oh,
But
wow.
it's we're trying trad publishing first, and then if traditional publishing fails, I will go back to my roots and independent self publish.
How have you found that journey? The traditional publishing can be quite a challenge, and I think that Emily Prokop was incredibly lucky to have that offer offered to her through Mango Publishing, I think it was, who was her publisher. But how have you found that experience?
I have found that experience a challenge.
Hmm. Yeah. Is it being able to reach out or get a response from them? What's been challenging about that?
Um, the traditional publishing industry, because there's so many ways to skin this cat, the rejection letters I've gotten, they don't want to publish my books, which makes me even work harder in the self publishing industry because those of us who query the agents, um, these agents are so stodgy and old and set in their ways that, and I probably shouldn't say that live publicly on Sunshine and Pound so much, but now you know my true feelings on the traditional publishing, so, on the traditional publishing side. These agents don't know their ways of self publishing a book. I mean, before I got on here, I was just interviewing a crime and mystery writer, and she's an international bestseller and on Amazon, and she did the all she did was self publish, and she you can make a self published book look so good
Yeah.
that you can't even tell the difference. You can't even tell the difference on my book. Now, on my original book, which I have a copy of, and so you can't even tell the difference. You would think it would come from a traditional publisher if I handed you that book.
Yeah. There is a lot. So the ease of, I want to say access, but the way of getting self-published is obviously a lot easier because it's self-driven. It's you making it happen,
Yeah,
and
it's
not the
you.
challenge of traditional getting in the door with a traditional publisher. Yeah.
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 First of all, you have to get in the door with those guys, and then if they accept your work, it may take 1 to 2 years. And I'm like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah. So you just make it happen and you self-publish, and you've managed to do that and make these amazing books that you can't tell the difference between whether they were traditionally published or self-published.
No, you
Yeah.
can't tell the difference. And then when I now since I'm going, well, I'm going tried to go for a traditional publishing deal. Now I feel a little bit better because the traditional publishers will only do a certain amount of marketing. Thank you very much, and then they're on to the next book. So they trust that the author
Yeah.
does the a lot of the marketing, and even though you have a traditional publishing team behind you, they once the book comes out they will do a push, but after that push is gone, you're waiting with a chance of meatballs. And no, Heather did not pay me to say that on the Sunshine and Falcons segment. You're waiting with a chance of meatballs. Rain will come down on your beautiful sunshine, which is your book.
Yeah, yeah. So it's up to the author to really make those connections and have that audience there and help market and promote it and
Yeah.
spread the
Oh yeah.
connections. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. Chris in the chat said, besides just sit down and write the thing, do you have any tips for someone looking to write a book?
Well, Chris, do you have a do you and I'm going to tell you this right now and I'll pose this question. Does anyone in the chat have a iPhone or a Android?
Mm-hmm. I think we can all raise our hands on
And
that one.
open go open your notepad
Yep,
and write the first sentence of write a couple words,
yep.
and that's how you begin to write a book.
So it is. Make it happen. And if you've got an idea in your head, put it down somewhere and then record it and then flesh it out, maybe.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And maybe it could be
I
like you take
mean,
an example from Win and you look at her books and other authors and see how they've done their journey and get an inspiration um, on, and like this, listening to someone else tell their story of how they got to writing their book. That might help.
yes. And I wrote my original book, I Come a Win, on the original iPhone number one, when Siri first came out.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That is so
Yep.
cool. And in terms of like just making connections through social media, I think you said you're savvy with social media is how you've described yourself. So
I am. I am savvy with social media because even though I am savvy with social media, I sit on the other side of millennials. And even though I grew up with I grew up with barely the internet. I grew up with AOL. I'm the end of the AOL generation,
mhm.
and Google, the little yellow dancing man across the screen, or look at the movie you got now. And that is the AOL generation. Jane Fonda is a bookshop owner. She she's boyfriend and girlfriend with Tom Hanks, and that is the end of my generation. So even though I'm technology savvy, I'm still learning it like the baby boomer generation because I didn't grow up with it, whereas my assistant grew up with this.
Yeah, that is an interesting dynamic. And similar, we've got Chris and Adam in the chat. Chris said, I miss AIM, and Adam says he still has an AIM email.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, my dad still has the AOL email. I'm like, you got me up like without a battle the day that goes down.
Yeah. Um, just moving along from those kinds of questions in technology and social media, we touched on Diary of a Fashionista, which is your other podcast that you have, and that's with your girlfriend Danielle, with your best friend. How did you two meet?
We met, okay, this is an interesting story.
Mm.
And we met through a disabled play camp. And I saw this um, full of beans and vinegar person, and she shouldn't be on this. She shouldn't be on this summit today because she's a ray of sunshine herself too.
Yeah.
And so I saw this um, full of beans and vinegar person. She was about 5. I was about 7. Thank you. Dates.
Yeah.
And so she was on a walker at this time when we met, and she was struggling, and I wasn't struggling so much. I mean, maybe I was. I was so fascinated by the purple walker that I had to go meet this person with the purple walker. And so we met through Challenge Aspen Play Camp. And for those of you that want to Google Challenge Aspen, when you see this video, Google Challenge Aspen. They do wonderful things for the disabled worldwide. Essentially, we have sister cities in Argentina. We have sister cities in France. I don't believe we have Challenge Aspen beneficiary in New Zealand yet.
Okay.
But maybe someday we'll work on that. Maybe someday I have to convince them that they should have a Challenge Aspen beneficiary in New Zealand because Challenge Aspen is one of those programs. It's a gem. And so that's how we met. And 2 weeks after my original book came out, I I must have given Danielle the galley copy, and I said, here's my new book. Read it and tell me what you think." The 2 weeks later, I get a text from her saying, "I want to be, I want to write books too."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay, you can't speak, so speech dictation is out of the question for you.
Okay.
How the heck are you going to write this book?" Do you know two it took her 2 years to write a book on her laptop, and she did it. And
Yay.
I'm like, well, put a I've decided put Danielle on a mission. She doesn't mission until it kills her. And so we decided to finally break out of her shelves after 8 years of our work being out there. And we decided, I said, hey, since you know so much about the technical side, why don't you get on mic with me and just make a podcast about cerebral palsy?
Yeah.
And she lit up like Christmas. It's like, when are you asked me to be a co-host? And so I am the facilitator of that podcast. I
Hmm.
just help. I just give emotional support. She, it's her podcast. I'm the one that pays for it, obviously, but I am making her do I'm making her do the majority of the work because I want to break her out of her comfort zone a little bit. I know I'm a mean best friend. I get a weird ways to practice speech, and that's one of the ways to do it. I mean, how to get rid of a speech impediment quickly? Just go in front of an audience of 1,000 people, and then you'll get rid of your speech impediment quickly.
Yeah.
And she's improved from the first day to the last day, and we record every Thursday, and then we drop it every Friday. Because what I've noticed is that my podcast goes up during the weekends because people have time to listen.
Hmm. Yeah. That's amazing that you've been friends for that long, that you met at Challenge Aspen. That's incredible. And it sounds like an amazing opportunity for people to make connections and to do things there. And I do hope that it sort of branches out and perhaps we would get one here. I don't actually know what is available in New Zealand, so I'd have to look into that. But that you've been friends and that you challenge her as any best friend would. You support her and you're it's exciting that she lit up and was really excited about it, but also that she
Yeah,
persevered through writing the book, which took her a long time. That's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And her book can also be found on Amazon. Her books, I should say. She's got a children's series
Oh,
out
cool.
to Danny Doll in Reg Doll Land, and she did the original autobiography. If Dan can shred, you can do it too, and that could be found on audio tape. And we're slowly producing that one in audio format. We've got a hitch going on with the audio format, but we're slowly but surely producing the audio version. So I've offered to help her with that because I put my books on audio tape for the disabled,
Yeah.
not knowing that able-bodied would like them as much as the disabled.
Okay. Well, that's awesome that you have the multiple options to allow other people to be able to access them. That's really cool. Dan can shred. Is that what you said? It was her autobiography.
Yes,
I
Dan
think
can thread. You can do it too.
you can do it too. I think that's really powerful. That has a very, very
And
powerful
she's
message.
on Twitter to you guys under Dan can thread 411, and I'll just type in Danielle Coulter on Twitter, and you can see her with a picture on her snowboard with her snowboard instructor standing behind her.
That's awesome. You've had a lot of snow recently, haven't you, Win?
Oh, yes, we have. We had the epic snow of the century.
You sent me a photo, and the snow was so high up outside the
I,
window.
I did. No, that photo I sent was was because I was afraid, well, if my internet go, I was afraid, you guys, that with the epic snowstorm, my internet would go out and my appearance wouldn't happen because when you're dealing with Mother Nature like Heather and I do, when you don't have a good internet connection, you're kind of up the creek without a paddle.
You are, yeah. And we rely on it to do this, and I'm so grateful that it has worked out for today. Also, like you, I
Yeah.
don't have snow, but it's a terribly rainy, miserable day out there, so I had to run the generator this morning to
Yes.
charge up the power to be able to do this. And
Yes,
yeah, very
yes,
lucky that that worked.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. I was hoping and praying for a nice sunny day today, actually, because I'm not like I need my internet to work, and the sunshine gods shine down on me.
they
They
did.
let me have my nice sunny day, but we, yeah,
Hopefully, you'll be able to open up the curtains once we
yeah,
finish up
I
here and
will.
let the
No,
sunlight
I
back
will.
in.
I
Yeah.
will.
Just before we've got a couple more minutes here. But do you enjoy writing or podcasting more, or do you enjoy them both the same? What how do you feel about that?
I, it, well, my original trade was I went to school for education.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decided when my mom was dying, actually, I decided to write this book and send myself back to journalism school. The reason why I wrote the book was to fund journalism school.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the process, and I don't graduate until May of 2020. I'm in the process of becoming a full time journalist and actually getting tra- trained in school to become a full time journalist. But to answer your question, do I like writing or do I like podcasting better? I think I like them both
Yeah.
because they both give me equal amounts of enjoyment. I mean, you said to me, I asked you how long this interview was going to be, and you gave me the time, and you said, "Are you fine with holding your phone?" And I said, "Let's do this. I'm ready to go. I'll hold my phone for as long as you need me." And so I think that podcasting gives me so much enjoyment, and writing on the other side gives me so much enjoyment too that it's hard to say whether I like one more than the other.
Yeah. They are different in a way. Like the podcasting thing, you're connecting with people, so there's kind of a social element. And do you find that writing is more reflective, able to get your thoughts out that you've got, or the develop the
Yes,
ideas? Yeah. So it's a difference. It's
yes.
not that one's necessarily better than the other.
And writing is lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Writing is lonely. Jeez, if I didn't if I didn't make myself go up and see the sun from my my lunch table, I would be lonely because I'm stuck in the basement scenario here. I know first world problems, but that's even lonelier when you're stuck in the basement and don't see the sun.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the process of writing is lonely because you're doing it on your own. So it's good that you've got
Yeah,
the two. You've got the podcast to connect with others, and
yeah,
you can get out and see the sun, hopefully, and then you've got the writing as well. You are very determined and passionate about making connections, and I love that about you, Win, so much. That's why I was so excited to have you as part of the Sunshine Summit. Um, I have a couple more questions on connections, and have is there any connections that you might have lost over the time that you wanted to reconnect?
I
Or new connections that you want to seek out if there aren't any that you've
I
lost?
I would love, and I know this is a big ask, I would love to make a connection with Michelle Obama to interview her on my podcast. That would just be so cool. And not necessarily in a political sense, but ask her how she kept kids so grounded
Mm-hmm.
and how she did it all as a mother and how she got the kids to eat veggies, by the way. When you mentioned the fruits in the garden, Heather, you got made me hungry. To Paul, you mentioned your pears and your garden. I'm like, now I'm hungry. Thank you very much, Heather, because I'm like, can't you ship them through customs? But no, you can't. You can't ship through customs, you
Yeah.
guys. Trust me. You can't ship a Bahamian coconut through customs either.
Mm.
So Heather can't ship her pears to me. But
No, I
man,
can't.
you made me hungry.
Yeah.
But so I want to connect with Michelle Obama because I want to see how she did it.
Mm-hmm. She is an incredibly inspiring woman. She did an amazing job managing all of those things, politics, being a first lady, and her family, and being so public. She's amazing. She really is. And Paul Chomo in the chat said that you and him connected after his interview the other night, and he's looking forward to talking to you on her podcast. He loves your positivity and enthusiasm.
Well, thank you, Paul. And yes, I connected with Paul. See, talking about the power of connections. I Paul was hiding in the woodwork to me. I didn't even know Ballman podcast had existed, Paul, until you got on here and talked about it.
Cool. Well, I'm glad we've made that connection for you and you discovered Varmints because it is an incredible podcast all about critters that creep, crawl, fly, and all the rest. And Chris is in the chat and he said vegetables are good if you cook them right, i.e., not boiling them.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, we can have a debate on. We can have a debate on that one, Chris.
Yeah. Paul said you and about 8 billion other people win. So I think there's more that we
Jeez.
can do to spread the word about varmints and about the Ask Win
Yeah,
podcast and about Diary of a
yes,
Fashionista and all these things.
yes. As Elsie Escobar says, it's all about having diverse voices in the podcasting space, like yours and mine and everyone else's. And Elsie Escobar, who is the happiness director over at Lipson. I keep mentioning Lipson because they're fabulous podcast hosts.
Yeah.
Also, their team is wonderful. And so Elsie wants to spread the diverse voices along with podcasting in the podcasting space.
Yeah. Adam has just done a shout out. Yay, Elsie. She's awesome.
Yay, Elsie! Yay, Elsie!
Yeah.
She Yay, Elsie! And so she also wants to spread. And oh, if you want to listen to that's a good podcast about podcasting. Also listen to the feed.
Yes. Yes. We had mentioned in the chat earlier that others do listen to the feed as well. And it doesn't matter where you
Yeah,
host your podcast, you should definitely listen to
no.
the feed. Yeah.
And another thing I wanted to tell you guys,
Yep.
Lipson does a wonderful thing on Fridays. They call it promote the tar out of yourself Fridays. And I said to the Lipson team because well now I'm hosting on Lipson, so it doesn't really count. But I'm hosting a big show on um, Simplecast, and I asked them, could any podcaster do this? And they said yes, any podcaster could join promote the tour out of yourself Friday. They only do it on Fridays.
And that's run on Twitter, isn't it? Is it?
That's when on Twitter.
Yeah. So that's a good opportunity to get yourself out there and spread the word. Yeah.
Yes.
Ducky said, yay for podcasting.
Yay for podcasting, Ducky.
Yeah.
Yay. Yay for podcasting. And yay for video games, Ducky. You got me now curiosity to kill the cat on. You and I need to talk after this because you got me curiosity to kill the cat on. Curiosity to kill the duck, I should say, on video games and what you guys are doing over there. You and Mrs. Ducky.
Yeah. He said thank you with the heart.
Well, you're welcome.
Just on that note, when are you creative and an artistic? Do you like painting or crafting things in any other form or?
Well, funny you should mention it. Before, way back when, before I became an author, before I became a podcaster, I had my own art company.
Okay.
I was a self-taught digital artist up until 2010.
Wow, I didn't know that when.
And so I don't really talk about it, but it's been mentioned quickly on my podcast. So
Yep.
if you Google my name and put the word art after it, I'm on Image Kind, Redbubble, Fine Art America, you will see my artwork. It's still floating around. And
Wow.
that is something I want to get back to after journalism school as a hobby, you guys, not as a paid business.
Yeah. As a hobby, that's awesome. Mrs. Ducky, as you got to hear, is an incredible artist. So that's why I wanted to ask you if you have an
Yeah.
artistic
Nope.
side.
Nope. Mrs. Ducky, you probably more inspired to bucking me to finish journalism school and get back to my artwork here because people who are incredible artists, I give them credit. And I was an incredible artist. I knew how to work a computer program to do it. And so that is something I want to get back to.
That's cool. I hope that you're able to do that. And you said you're graduating in 2020 from the journalism school,
I
so that's exciting.
graduated in 2020 in May of journalism school. So happy birthday to me. That's going to be it was supposed to be my Christmas present this year, but it's going to happily push back to my birthday. And so I'm pretty excited that I'm giving myself the gift of education.
I think that's incredible. What an amazing birthday gift to yourself, Win. And you've worked
Yeah.
really hard for it too. So all of that hard work.
Yeah. Yeah, and my fan base has sat through this journalism degree like there's no tomorrow. They're like, oh come on, oh come on, and people have asked me, how do you do it all? You
Yeah.
don't sleep, you don't eat. Of course, I do sleep, I do eat, but I'm not like, how do I do it all? I must be Superwoman by now.
Are you not, Win? Are you not Superwoman? I mean,
No, I am a superwoman. I just don't have my cape is my cerebral palsy. Let's just put it that when I am superwoman, my name is Win, and my cape is cerebral palsy. Let's just put it that way.
I love that. That is so cool. Ducky said graduating is exciting. That's so great that you can do that with another heart. And I think that you are amazing. I'm glad that you do sleep and eat and look after yourself too, though, because that is really
Oh,
important to be able to do all of these amazing things that you're trying to do. Yeah.
well, yes.
um, just hopefully here. I've got the video's a little bit awkward now because I see if I can change it. But I've got on the screen a way that people can find all the places to connect with you. There is Twitter at AskWin or Win Kelly Charles. You've got two there. On Facebook, your Butterflies of Wisdom. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yep.
Danielle manages that page, or it's Author Win C on Facebook, you guys. But just just go find Danielle, and she'll guide you in the right direction on Facebook.
She will. She's got all the connections to make that happen. And you're on Instagram at AskWin622.
Yes,
Yep.
yes,
And I love what you share in your Instagram stories. You share other things that you've seen and enjoy.
yeah, I
Yeah.
do. And then I'm also on Patreon, you guys,
I've got that on
under
there.
Ask Win.
Yes, I've got that
Under
listed on
Ask
the
Win.
screen.
So if you go to Patreon and want to support me there, I am a bad Patreon ness, because I don't do anything with the feed. Although I should after journalism school. I'm gonna be more active on Patreon because I've got a couple Patreon supporters, and I now need to do something with them and do a Q&A, question and answer, and make you guys a private feed. See,
That
if I put it out to the universe, I will actually do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's great that you have that opportunity for people to support you that way. And like we talked about, your books are available. They can find the links to your books on Amazon, but is it all listed on askwin.weebly.com? That's your website?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I pretty much put it on askwin.weebly.com. I pretty much, that is my podcast website slash my website for all my work.
Yeah. Ducky said there might be a couple of YouTube channels that he's found in a search on YouTube. Have you got more than one?
I have I'm not very active on
Okay.
YouTube, Ducky. I have more than one of them maybe defunct,
Okay.
and so that is the only that Ducky, you caught me at the only place I'm not active, YouTube, because you did.
Yeah, that's all right. Most of the links that are important, they can be found on
Yeah,
askwin.weebly.com, and
yeah.
can connect with you on social media. And yeah, thank you so much, Win, for being here today and being part of the Sunshine Summit. It has been amazing talking to you. I'm glad that we were able to share your light because you are shining bright and lighting up the world with all that you do.
You are so welcome, Heather, and thank you everyone for your support of Heather and her amazing podcast. And please, please, please go support Heather and the Sunshine and Power Cuts podcast. Just a PSA to throw out there for those of you who haven't discovered podcasting. I think Heather's podcast should be one of the ones in your repertoire, along with Ask When,
Yes.
along with The Story Behind, run by the fabulous Emily Pocock. And then, if you guys need my help publishing a book, I would be more than happy to help you guys. If you guys want to come on Ask When, just contact me on Twitter, direct email me, and I'll get you in touch with Danielle. And Danielle knows the drill, and she'll get you on the schedule.
Yeah, and like I said, when I went through that experience, it was wonderful, and there were follow up emails, and it's a good process, and I really
Yeah.
enjoyed, and I'm grateful for that opportunity. And thank you again, Win, for being here. Bye to everyone in the live chat, and we'll catch you for the next live stream of the Sunshine Summit. Bye.